Wishing all the babes an amazing day and welcoming everyone back. And if we have any Swifties in the building, babes, welcome. We love you. And don't forget to share, rate, and comment. Do it for Taylor, babes. Vodka crayons are on deck. Cheers. Take a sip.
Oh, cheers to that. Honestly, considering the absolute travesty of television we are about to unpack today, a single sip is drastically underestimating the required dosage. Like, I might genuinely need an IV drip of this pitcher.
Seriously. Because, babes, can we talk about you for a second? The love you've been showing us lately. We feel it. We see it. And, babes, we love you. We've been getting so many comments, DMs, and honestly, we are obsessed. So we thought, let's get messy.
Oh, we are descending into pure, unadulterated chaos today. The Snark Squad has been, like, absolutely flooding the inbox with these hypothetical scenarios. And just looking at the list, I am equal parts terrified of your answers and genuinely thrilled to dissect the psychology behind them.
I am already sweating. We are kicking things off today with a game of Snark Squad Would You Rather. You guys submitted the absolute most unhinged, chaotic, reality-altering questions. And we're going to ask each other 5 of them just to, set the tone. And I already know I'm going to spiral.
Right.
I can literally feel the panic setting in my chest just looking at the first one.
It's fine. Just breathe. Lower your cortisol levels, babe. We're going to overthink these logically. Or, well, I will attempt to apply some level of strategic game theory logic to these nightmares, while you inevitably have a visceral, deeply emotional meltdown over them.
True. I lead with my heart and my anxiety. Okay, question 1, coming in extremely hot. Would you rather be famous but universally hated, or completely unknown but absolutely entirely broke?
Oh, this is like the quintessential reality television sociological experiment. Famous but hated, absolutely.
Wait, what?
It's not even a debate in the modern attention economy.
Are you serious? But the hate comments, I would literally cease to exist. I would disintegrate. If I opened my phone and saw a comment with 3,000 likes saying my outfit looked like a deflated parachute, I would never leave my house again.
Oh.
The anxiety.
Yeah.
The absolute soul-crushing horror of knowing that millions of people are actively congregating online just to drag your entire existence.
See, you are looking at this through the lens of emotional validation, which is a rookie mistake. You need to look at it through the lens of monetization. Let's break down the actual mechanics of modern infamy, right? Hate is an economy.
Oh my God, here we go.
No, listen. Attention, regardless of whether it is positive or negative, is a currency that can be converted into actual capital. If you are unknown and broke, you're just struggling. You have zero leverage. But if you are famous and hated, you are the villain of the season.
But at what cost to your soul?
The soul is highly adaptable when you have a trust fund. Think about the infrastructure of being the villain on, like, Bravo. You get the villain edit on national television. Instead of crying about it, you lean into it.
I guess, but...
You launch a podcast analyzing your own toxic behavior. You sell merchandise featuring the absolute meanest things people have tweeted about you. You book club appearances in Vegas for 20 grand a night just to show up and sneer at people. You effectively monetize the hatred. I would much rather cry into high thread count Egyptian cotton sheets on a yacht than cry about being unknown in a leaky 4th floor walk-up apartment.
I mean, okay, when you map out the financial strategies like that, I hear you. But no, I still couldn't do it. I need to be loved. I need the validation of my peers. I am a golden retriever in human form.
You really are.
I would literally rather be entirely unknown, sharing a tiny studio apartment with 4 roommates, eating instant ramen 3 meals a day, than have the collective internet actively wishing for my downfall. The psychological toll of that much negative energy being directed at your aura would give you an ulcer.
This just proves you lack the necessary sociopathic edge required to thrive in modern fame. It's fascinating, really. You prioritize communal acceptance over resource acquisition. I would simply turn off my Instagram comments, check my diversified stock portfolio, and fly to St. Bart's.
You are so incredibly toxic, and yet, I respect the hustle. Okay, question 2. This one targets the actual nervous system. Would you rather catch your partner cheating or accidentally be the other person?
Whew.
Yeah.
Let's look at the wording here. Accidentally is the operative load-bearing word in that sentence?
Yes, like you genuinely 100% did not know they were in a relationship. Oh my God, catching them cheating would ruin me. The betrayal, the absolute reality-shattering trauma of it. I would be a hollow shell of a human being.
Right.
Think about the physical reaction, the screaming, the crying, this cinematic tossing of their designer clothes out of a second-story window onto the lawn. Like in the movies. It alters your brain chemistry forever. But being the other person, the suffocating guilt.
Let's separate the emotion from the logistics for a second. Analytically speaking, catching your partner cheating is objectively worse for your long-term mental health. Why? Because it represents a catastrophic betrayal of trust from a primary attachment figure.
Exactly.
You invested time, emotional labor, and vulnerability into this person, and they actively deceived you. The psychological recovery from that takes years of therapy, but being the other person accidentally, that's just a messy Tuesday.
A messy Tuesday. You are ruining a home.
No, they are ruining a home. You are a bystander who got hit by the shrapnel of their terrible life choices. You didn't break any vows. You didn't sign a contract. You were lied to just as much as the primary partner was. You are technically a victim in this scenario.
I mean, Biddy.
Plus, if we're looking at this through the lens of reality TV plotting, which is how we view the world, being the accidental side piece gives you the ultimate power position for the dramatic reveal. You get to team up with the main partner, compare text messages, and orchestrate a devastating public confrontation. It's peak narrative arc.
You are genuinely romanticizing being a side piece. I could not handle the messiness of that confrontation.
Yeah.
I'd feel so physically ill, so disgusting, knowing that I was the catalyst for ruining a relationship, even if I was completely in the dark.
Yeah,
But you're right about the trauma of being the one cheated on. When someone breaks your trust like that, it rewires your ability to trust anyone else in the future. It's a permanent scar. Okay, fine. I think I would rather be the accidental side piece, but I would immediately move to a new city, dye my hair, and change my name to avoid the fallout.
Actually, witness protection is a valid strategy. All right, question 3. Would you rather live a boring, completely safe, entirely predictable life, or a chaotic, unpredictable, absolute mess of a life?
Oh, please. We already know the answer. This one's not even a question.
We literally sit here for hours dissecting the chaotic, unpredictable messes of strangers on television while drinking vodka crayons. We live for the mess. We embody the mess.
Literally. A boring, safe life sounds like my own personal version of hell. I want the drama. I want the plot twists. I want the sudden career changes and the impulsive price country road trips. I want to wake up and not know exactly what I am doing next Tuesday. Bring on the absolute chaos.
The fundamental flaw with a perfectly predictable life is that you know exactly how the season ends by episode 2. Where is the suspense? Where is the mid-season twist that recontextualizes everything you thought you knew?
Yes.
Human beings need friction to grow. From a psychological standpoint, a little bit of instability and unpredictable stimuli keeps the brain's neuroplasticity active. If everything is safe, you stagnate. I need the narrative to keep moving forward, even if it means driving the car slightly off the road occasionally.
Exactly. We are off-roading through life. Okay, question 4. Oh, this one is genuinely mean. Who submitted this?
Let's hear it.
Would you rather lose all your money or lose all your friends?
Well, let me just open my banking app real quick and do a little cost-benefit analysis.
Stop it right now.
Honestly, if I am weighing my current account balance against the emotional maintenance required for my friend group, it's a remarkably tight race.
You are terrible.
Yeah.
You are a terrible person. I would rather lose all my money without a single second of hesitation. Loyalty is literally everything to me. My friends are my chosen family.
I know.
If I lost all my money tomorrow, if my accounts were drained to zero, I know for an absolute fact that my friends would let me sleep on their couches. They would bring me takeout. We would figure it out together. If I had all the money in the world, a massive mansion, a private jet, but absolutely zero friends to share it with, what is the point?
Okay, valid.
Who am I going to go to bottomless brunch with? Who am I going to spiral over reality TV eliminations with? You cannot buy this specific deranged dynamic.
That is a surprisingly wholesome and, evolutionarily sound perspective. Humans are pack animals, after all, and isolation literally increases mortality rates. But theoretically speaking, if I kept all my millions of dollars, couldn't I just buy new, significantly fancier friends? People who own yachts?
I am officially taking your microphone away. I am unplugging your XLR cable.
I'm kidding. Mostly. I would choose the friends, obviously. As we have already established in previous conversations, being broke is incredibly stressful, but being broke and utterly alone is a Shakespearean tragedy. I need an audience for my snark.
Right. Okay, final question to wrap up this emotional roller coaster. Question 5. Would you rather be single forever or are stuck forever with your absolute worst ex?
Single. Solitary. Unattached. Absolutely unequivocally single.
Single forever. I would rather live in a damp cave. I would rather become a hermit in the Appalachian woods, foraging for berries and talking to squirrels for the rest of my natural life. Just the mere thought of my worst ex, my Apple Watch just gave me a high heart rate alert.
I don't doubt it.
The manipulation. The constant subtle gaslighting, the absolutely tragic outfits they refuse to stop wearing.
Let's not forget the abysmal text etiquette. The complete and total lack of situational self-awareness. No, being single is not a punishment. It is a supreme luxury when compared to being legally and emotionally tethered to a mistake you made when your prefrontal cortex hadn't even fully developed yet.
Wow.
Forever is a very, very long time to spend with someone who fundamentally does not understand how to properly formulate an apology.
A mistake made before the prefrontal cortex developed. That is the exact perfect way to phrase it. Single forever, no contest.
Okay.
My blood pressure is entirely too high now. Let's pivot before I need medical attention.
Good idea.
Because, babes, for anyone watching,
Yes.
we are wearing Snark side merch. And, babes, we're currently out of stock. But don't worry, we will let you know when the next drop is ready.
The demand has been genuinely insane. It violates the basic laws of supply and demand. You guys really showed up.
We love you so much for it, but we desperately need to move on to the main event because we were so pumped for this episode. Babes, Taylor Swift.
Yes.
We are Swifties. The screaming, the crying, the throwing up, an entire dedicated night of primetime television handed over to the catalog of Taylor Swift. It is about time.
From a purely industry perspective, it was entirely inevitable. You simply cannot operate a major network singing competition right now without dedicating an entire theme night to the literal music industry herself. The cultural gravity of her catalog is just too strong. It pulls everything into its orbit.
The moment Ryan Seacrest announced the theme last week, my soul physically ascended from my body. And the fact that they brought in Nikki Glaser to sit at the desk as a guest judge, that was a stroke of producing genius.
It really was.
Nikki is a certified, heavily documented Swiftie who has been to the Eras Tour, 22 times? That is not a casual fan. That is a full-time, unpaid employee of the Taylor Swift brand.
She essentially holds a doctorate in Swiftology. She understands the lore, the Easter eggs, the emotional weight of the bridges. But what I truly loved about the production of this episode was the underlying, subtle shade of it all. Taylor herself obviously wasn't there because she is a billionaire. She's currently dominating the global economy. She's busy. But her dancers were in the front row.
Cameron Saunders was sitting in the audience, and Jan Ravnik.
Yeah.
I literally screamed at my flat screen. When the camera panned to camp, I was like, this is actual American royalty. We are in the undeniable presence of greatness.
It was a massive cultural reset for that studio audience. And think about the psychological pressure that creates for the contestants. It is one thing to sing a Taylor Swift song in your shower. It is an entirely different level of psychological warfare to have the official Aries tour dancers, the people who literally sweat to these exact tracks every single night in front of 80,000 screaming fans sitting 10 feet away judging your rhythm.
Exactly. It raises the stakes to an unimaginable level. So let's properly set the scene for the babes who maybe missed the broadcast, or perhaps blocked it out of their memory due to the sheer trauma of the eliminations. We started this week with the top 7.
Right.
The stakes are incredibly violently high because we are cutting 2 entire people tonight to formulate the top 5. And it wasn't just Taylor Swift night. Production, in their infinite wisdom, decided to force 2 rounds on these kids. Round 1 was the Taylor Swift catalog, and round 2 was hit songs from iconic California artists.
Which is such an utterly bizarre, disjointed pivot. It gave me thematic whiplash. Think about the narrative design here. Here's the most specific, lyrically dense, lore-heavy artist of our entire generation for round 1, and for round 2, just sing literally any song by a human being who happened to inhale smog in Los Angeles at some point in their life.
It makes no sense.
There is no connective tissue there at all.
Totally disconnected. But before we even get into the actual vocals and the individual performances, we have to talk about the absolute messiest, most enraging part of this entire season. The massive elephant in the room that is ruining the integrity of the show.
Oh, boy.
The absolute tragedy that is this new voting format.
Ah, yes. The social media live voting format. It is, without a doubt, a spectacular, unmitigated failure of both logistical planning and basic common sense.
I have been spiraling about this in Reddit threads for 4 hours straight.
Yeah.
If you aren't paying attention to the mechanics, here's how they are doing it. It is live voting only, meaning the window to vote opens the exact second the show starts and it slams shut the minute the broadcast ends.
Yeah.
But the show only airs live for the East Coast and the Central time zones. The West Coast, everyone in PST and MST literally do not even get the show broadcast to their televisions before the voting window is permanently closed.
It is mathematically infuriating. If you look at the demographic spread of the United States, we are actively purposefully silencing half the country. You have millions of dedicated viewers sitting in California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, who are ostensibly supposed to be part of the democratic process of choosing this winner.
Exactly.
And the network is essentially telling them, hey, we know you haven't seen the episode yet, but just blindly log onto Instagram or Facebook and cast your vote before you've even heard a single note sung. It completely strips away the concept of a meritocracy.
It destroys the meritocracy entirely. It turns the entire competition into a blind, localized popularity contest based strictly on your zip code and how many ants you have on Facebook.
Exactly. Let's dig into the sociology of what happens when you structure a vote this way. When people cannot base their vote on the live performance because they literally haven't seen it, what do they base it on?
Vibes.
They base it on familiarity, regional loyalty, and baseline aesthetics. It's called parasocial regionalism. Oh, this guy is from my home state. I'll throw him 10 votes. Oh, this guy looks like the quarterback from my high school. 10 votes. It completely bypasses the auditory processing center of the brain. The vocal talent becomes entirely irrelevant to the algorithm.
It is so deeply unfair. And to make matters worse, the cuts are happening way, way too fast this season. We went from 120 people down to 30 people based on like one heavily edited performance weeks ago. And now they're just rapidly hacking away at the talent pool based on this rigged time zone biased social media system.
Like brutal.
The contestants literally do not even have the necessary time to grow or to take feedback or to build a narrative arc with the audience. If you stumble one single time, or if you just happen to not have a rabid, organized Facebook mom group backing you in the Midwest, you are gone immediately.
The pacing is aggressive, and it removes the ability for a dark horse to slowly win over the audience through sheer improvement. And the devastating consequences of that exact flawed dynamic were on full, horrific display tonight. Which brings us, inevitably, to the injustice of the century.
Oh my God.
The Chris Tungseth conspiracy.
Just hearing his name makes my left eye twitch. I'm going to need another drink just to formulate a sentence about this without screaming.
Well, let's break this down analytically because the math is the only way this makes sense. Chris is a 27-year-old guy from Fergus Falls, Minnesota. For round one, his Taylor Swift selection, he sang Exile. For round two, the California artist selection, he sang What Was I Made For? By Billie Eilish.
And he is still here. He is currently sitting comfortably in the top 5,
Right.
while actual generational vocal powerhouses are packing their bags and going home. Make it make sense, because my brain cannot process the data.
I will make it make sense, but you aren't going to like it. It's a textbook combination of handsome guy privilege coupled with a highly mobilized, fiercely loyal army of Midwesterners. If you actually look at the data analysis happening online, and trust me, I have combed through it extensively, people are tracking the geographic voting spikes.
It's all regional.
He is surviving purely on regional state pride. It's the Minnesota bots.
Yes. Someone online literally laid out the theory saying, I think the land of 10,000 lakes has dedicated voters for Chris from every single one of those lakes. And it absolutely shows. Because if we talk about his actual vocals, well...
Let's analyze the vocals, or the lack thereof. His performances are consistently aggressively underwhelming. When you look at a song like Exile, you're dealing with a very specific, resonant lower register that Justin Vernon of Bon Iver originated on the track.
Such a hard song.
Right, it requires a dropped larynx and immense sustained breath support to hit those low notes without sounding muddy. Chris does not possess that technical foundation.
He sings with the passion of a guy reading a grocery list in the dairy aisle.
Exactly. When someone without the proper breath support attempts Exile, what happens? The pitch goes completely flat because they are pushing air from their throat instead of pulling it from their diaphragm. The vocal folds literally cannot vibrate at the correct frequency.
It was so flat.
His pitch is undeniably pitchy, his tone is incredibly flat and nasal, and he has absolutely zero dynamic stage presence. He just stands there looking vaguely handsome and entirely lost. And yet, the Facebook voting block propels him straight through to the top 5. And if you want the most damning piece of evidence that the system is broken, look at the viral moment at the very end of the episode.
Oh my God, the elimination reveal. When Ryan Seacrest looked at the card and called Chris's name as being safe, Chris's own facial expression gave him away. He looked utterly shocked.
He really did.
He physically jolted and looked around the room like, wait, me? Are you guys absolutely sure? Did you misread the card? Even Chris internally knows that he should be going home.
It was an incredible piece of unscripted television. He had this look of pure, unadulterated survivor's guilt plastered across his face. And if you shifted your eyes to the judges' table when his name was called, Luke Bryan and Carrie Underwood literally had to peel their jaws off the floor.
They were stunned.
They were visibly stunned. The mask slipped for a second. They knew it was wrong. Everyone in that room, from the producers in the booth to the cameramen, knew the math didn't align with the talent.
It makes me so incredibly angry. Because while Chris is sliding right on by, relying on his cheekbones and his Minnesota zip code, we violently lost an actual king tonight. We lost Daniel Stallworth.
A literal historical tragedy for the franchise.
I had a full, hyperventilating emotional meltdown on my couch.
Let's talk about what Daniel actually delivered. Daniel sang Fearless for his Taylor Swift round, and then for his California round, he pulled out Best Part by HER, and he was flawless. Not just good, but technically and emotionally flawless.
Nikki Glaser was literally at the judge's desk, fangirling over him. She told him that he brought something totally different and fresh to Fearless, and after Best Part, she specifically said she could fully see herself buying a ticket to a whole 2-hour show from him. He is already a professional.
Let's dissect the musicality of what Daniel did, because it requires immense skill. Fearless is a deceptively difficult song to reinvent because the melody is so intrinsically tied to its specific country pop acoustic production. But Daniel effortlessly transposed it into a soulful R&B adjacent space without losing the narrative of the lyric. That requires a deep understanding of music theory and chord progression.
And his voice.
The tone. And then his vocal performance on Best Part. That is a neo-soul track. It requires total mastery of the pentatonic scale and incredibly precise melisma, those vocal runs where you sing multiple notes on a single syllable. Daniel executed those runs with clinical precision.
It was so smooth.
Carrie Underwood wasn't exaggerating when she said his voice was like butter on hot toast. It was rich, warm, and perfectly supported. He easily gave a top 5 vocal performance of the entire season. The breath control, the intentional vibrato, the emotional connection to the lens of the camera, he actually performs the song. He understands the assignment. He doesn't just stand there looking handsome and confused like Chris.
He connects with the audience.
Yeah.
He has actual soul. And he went home. I am physically pouring a splash of my vodka cran out for our king right now. It is a certified crime against music. Someone online summed it up perfectly. They said, Daniel gave a top 5 vocal of the season and went home.
It's undeniably true.
And it's undeniably true. Now, look, his elimination is ultimately going to help Jordan, sure, because Jordan operates in a similar lane, and will likely absorb Daniel's orphan votes next week. But Daniel absolutely, fundamentally deserved to be competing in the finale.
His elimination perfectly proves the overarching thesis of the night, right? The live, time zone restricted social media voting format heavily favors generic, safe, conventionally attractive, country-adjacent white guys over highly unique, technically proficient, soulful vocalists.
Tale as old as time.
We see this exact demographic bias happen almost every single season on these shows, but because the cuts this year are happening so aggressively fast, the disparity is so much more jarring.
Okay, we need to take a breath and talk about the other elimination tonight, which, honestly, I was significantly less devastated by, but the sheer cringe factor of the entire situation was entirely off the charts. We have to talk about Brooks Rosser.
Yes. Brooks, the patron saint of nervous, chaotic energy.
Let's deeply dissect this messy showman's narrative the producers have been shoving down our throats. Because last week, Brooks aggressively hard-launched his relationship with his girlfriend, Ray, who, if you remember, was also a contestant on this season before she got cut during Hollywood Week. He made this massive, sweeping, romantic declaration on live television.
Which was a choice.
And then this week, for the highly anticipated Taylor Swift night, what exact song does he choose to sing? Love Story.
It's giving high school gymnasium talent show. It really, truly is. The narrative construction is just so incredibly forced and transparent. It's the thought process of, well, I have a public girlfriend now, therefore I am contractually obligated to sing the ultimate, universally recognized teenage romance anthem. It felt entirely performative rather than authentic.
Performative, and he is just so overwhelmingly nervous. Every single time he steps on that stage, he looks like he is absolutely terrified. He looks like someone who accidentally wandered out of the audience and was handed a microphone.
It's true.
For his second song, the California Artist Round, he chose Maroon 5's She Will Be Loved. And they literally had to make him sit on a bench. The set designers gave him a literal park bench in the middle of the stage to anchor his physical body down so he wouldn't visually shake apart on camera.
Let's talk about the biology of stage fright, because Brooks was giving us a masterclass in a physiological collapse.
Oh, please do.
When adrenaline floods the system during a fight or flight response, your heart rate skyrockets, your breathing becomes incredibly shallow, and your muscles tense up. The park bench was a physical crutch to hide the fact that his legs were likely shaking.
That makes so much sense.
But you cannot hide what adrenaline does to the vocal cords. Tension in the neck constricts the larynx. Shallow breathing means you have zero air support to sustain a note. His pitch was wavering because his body was essentially panicking.
And the judge's feedback made it so much worse. It was so telling. Lionel Richie literally looked at this sweating boy and told him to just have a great time.
A classic line.
Whenever a seasoned judge resorts to telling a contestant to just have fun, it is industry code for you look like you are in severe physical pain, you are off pitch, and you are making the entire studio audience deeply uncomfortable.
Precisely. You are transferring your anxiety to the viewer. Carrie Underwood literally told him to just breathe.
Blink twice if you need us to call an Uber, babe. Seriously. You look like you are being held hostage by the rhythm section.
Now, objectively, his voice does have a very unique raspy tone. I will give him that. In a recording studio where you can do 20 takes and comp the best parts together, he probably sounds great. But he fundamentally lacks the psychological fortitude required for live television broadcasting. He simply cannot handle the pressure of the red light turning on.
Not at all.
The stage swallows him whole every single week. So when Ryan announced he was going home, it didn't feel like a tragedy. It felt like a mercy killing.
I was slightly sad for a fleeting second because I do genuinely like his raspy tone, but you're absolutely right. It was absolutely his time to go. He needs to pack his bags, go back to Maryland, sit in a quiet room, write some moody indie folk songs for Spotify, and stay as far away from live television cameras as humanly possible.
Agreed. The live format is not his medium. Now, shall we cleanse our palates and move on to the contestants who actually understood the assignment tonight, the absolute standout?
Yes. Oh my God, yes. Let's talk about the only actual fully formed adult in the entire room, Jordan McCullough.
Jordan is operating on a completely different elevated frequency than the rest of this cast. He isn't competing with them. He is giving a masterclass while they watch.
He sang Tim McGraw for his Taylor Swift song, which, first of all, is such an incredibly smart, classic, strategic choice to pander to the country audience while staying on theme. And then, for his California song, he pulled out an absolute weapon. Bonnie Raitt's I Can't Make You Love Me.
That choice alone proves his maturity. I Can't Make You Love Me is widely considered one of the most structurally perfect, emotionally devastating ballads ever written in the English language. You absolutely cannot fake your way through that lyric.
No, you can't.
You have to have lived a little. You have to have had your heart broken to understand the necessary phrasing. And Jordan, at 27 years old, brought a quiet maturity and an intentional, dragging pacing to the song that was entirely mesmerizing. He sang behind the beat. He let it breathe.
Carrie Underwood completely lost her mind over it. She was shaking her head at the desk, and she literally said, "Every time you open your mouth, I hear the Holy Spirit."
Quite the endorsement.
And Luke Bryan. I cannot stop thinking about Luke's feedback. This was the undisputed quote of the night for me. Luke looked him dead in the eye and said, "Jordan hit notes that corrected my spine curvature."
It is, on its face, an utterly absurd, medically impossible compliment, but analytically, it actually makes perfect sense in terms of audio frequencies.
Wait, how? Explain the science of the spine curvature.
Think about vocal resonance. When a singer perfectly utilizes their chest voice, the lower, thicker vocal register, it creates sympathetic vibrations that you can physically feel in your own chest cavity if you are sitting close enough to the speakers.
Oh, wow.
Jordan's pitch is so deeply grounded, and his tone is so incredibly rich and therapeutic that it physically resonates in the room. He doesn't look stressed. He doesn't rely on a manufactured sob story about his childhood. He just plants his feet firmly on the stage and delivers a flawless, seasoned, deeply resonant vocal performance. He paces energy output like a professional who has been headlining tours for 10 years.
He is the undeniable, clear frontrunner of the entire show. There was no debate.
Yeah.
But honestly, my personal favorite vibe of the entire night, the performance that made me scream the loudest, Braden Rumfeld. I was screaming at my television.
Braden provided the ultimate, desperately needed moment of unintentional comedy for the evening.
Okay, let me set this up for the babes. So Braden is this 22-year-old, slightly scruffy guy. And the producers assign him Cardigan by Taylor Swift, which is, as we know, peak folklore era. It is very specific, very moody, incredibly lore-heavy. It's about a fictional love triangle.
It's very involved.
And after he finishes his performance, Nikki Glazer, our resident hyperfixated Swiftie guest judge, leans into the mic and asks him so earnestly, do you love that song? Do you just love that song?
And Braden, with the sheer, unadulterated bluntness of a man who literally cannot formulate a lie on live television, just looks at her, deadpan, and admits that he had literally never heard the song Cardigan in his entire life before this week.
Iconic behavior. I fell off my couch. Just lie, babe. Lie to the Swiftie. Tell her it changed your life. But no, he just straight up was like, nope, didn't know it, never heard it.
He really didn't care.
And yet, he absolutely entirely ate the song. He devoured it. He gave us this raspy, gravelly, emotional journey. He completely made it his own because he wasn't trying to copy Taylor's inflection.
There is immense power in approaching source material completely blind. Because he didn't know the deep lore or the specific phrasing Taylor uses, he was able to objectively approach the sheet music and structure the melody around his own vocal strengths.
So it worked perfectly.
That is the exact level of unbothered, chaotic success that I strive to achieve daily. To step onto a massive national stage during a highly publicized Taylor Swift night, look a superfan guest judge directly in the eye, admit you have zero idea what the cultural context is, but still deliver an objectively killer vocal.
It's incredible.
And then he followed it up with Maroon 5's This Love and gave us what Lionel Richie accurately diagnosed as the ugly face.
Yes. The passion face. We love the ugly face. When you are reaching down into your diaphragm to hit that gritty note and you completely stop caring about what your face looks like on high-definition television, you contort your jaw, you bare your teeth. I love Braden.
Yeah.
He brings a raw garage band energy that the show desperately needs to break up the pageant feel.
Speaking of breaking up the pageant feel, we have to talk about Keela Richardson.
Keela, absolute mother. Bow down.
She took Lover, which in its original form is a very sweet, lilting, waltzy, incredibly romantic pop song, and reworked the arrangement so drastically, injecting so much gospel influence and heavy syncopation that Nikki Glaser said she honestly didn't even recognize what song it was for the first 30 seconds.
She gave it absolute soul. She
Yeah.
put some respect and some bass on that track. And then for her California song, she decided to casually sing Etta James' I'd Rather Go Blind. The sheer terrifying cower of this woman.
It was immense.
The vocal gymnastics, the runs. Nikki Glaser was so overwhelmed, she literally grabbed the microphone and asked if she should throw her Spanx onto the stage instead of a shoe, like Jennifer Hudson does when someone sings well.
Let's analyze that reaction. When a vocalist evokes the instinctual throwing of foundational undergarments from the judging panel, they have successfully and utterly dominated the physical space of the room.
Literally.
Keela has a massive, undeniable, room-shaking instrument. If I were to offer one analytical critique, it is that occasionally, when she pushes too hard, her belting borders on shouting, and she loses a bit of the nuance in her vibrato. But when she channels that immense air pressure correctly and keeps her larynx stable, she is a completely unstoppable force of nature.
I am obsessed with her energy. She commands respect. But on the complete exact opposite end of the energy spectrum type, we are forced to talk about Hannah Harper.
Ah, yes. The beautiful, pristine, blonde bluegrass enigma.
She sang Mean by Taylor Swift and then followed it up with a Merle Haggard song. And look, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one and give your hot take because you were absolutely vicious during the commercial break, and I want the listeners to hear it.
I will say it into the microphone, and I stand by every word of it. Hannah is undeniably beautiful. She has a lovely, crystal clear, pitch perfect, pristine, country radio ready voice.
Sure.
From a purely statistical standpoint, she will probably win this entire competition because she fits the exact specific demographic profile that the Midwestern Facebook voting bloc absolutely devours. But as a performer, she is giving us absolutely nothing but pretty boredom.
It's so true. It is so frustrating. She just stands there like a mannequin.
She literally did not take the microphone out of the stand for 2 entire back-to-back performances.
Not once.
She just grips the metal mic stand with both hands, smiles a very polite, pageant-ready smile, and sings perfectly in pitch. There is absolutely no edge. There is zero physical risk. There is no emotional depth or dynamic range. Her phrasing doesn't change. Her facial expressions don't change.
It's demanding.
Listening to her perform is the audio equivalent of staring at a freshly painted beige living room. It's perfectly nice, it offends no one, and you forget about it the second you leave the room.
A beige living room. You are so incredibly shady, but you are hitting the nail exactly on the head. I was reading a Reddit thread during her performance, and someone literally commented, Hannah is beautiful, and she'll probably win, but she is giving us nothing but pretty boredom.
See, the people know.
and someone else underneath that compared her to very early season 4 Carrie Underwood. Like, obviously, the raw vocal talent is in there, the instrument is tuned, but the performance value and the emotional connection to the lyric is just entirely flat.
She is a very, very safe bet. And if we look at the mechanics of this season, where the voting format is chaotic, rushed, and based on blind regional loyalty, safe bets survive. Excellence gets eliminated because it's polarizing. Beige survives.
Okay, we have judged them individually. Now it is time to judge them against each other and figure out what actually matters in this industry. This brings up a massive, overarching debate. In today's music industry, what actually matters more to a successful career? The technical, flawless vocals, or the overall magnetic vibe? Let's break it down.
I love this debate.
Who delivered the objective vocals tonight, and who relied entirely on the aura, the energy, the vibes?
It's a fascinating dichotomy, because you can have one without the other, but true stardom requires the alchemy of both.
I'll start this debate. For vibes, pure energy, and stage presence, I have to nominate my guy Brayden. He is the poster child for this.
Oh, without a doubt.
Singing Maroon 5, contorting his face into the ugly passion face, openly admitting to Nikki Glazer that he doesn't know the lyrics to a Taylor Swift song, but still absolutely rocking out on the guitar. He absolutely did not have the most technically perfect pitch-accurate vocal of the night. He missed a few notes.
He did.
But the vibes were entirely immaculate. I wanted to be standing in the front row of his sweaty club concert. And for vocals, pure, unadulterated, blow-the-roof-off vocals, my vote is Keela. She brings the church. She brings the sheer lung capacity. She's technically singing circles around half these people.
Those are very solid, easily defensible choices, but I am going to take a slightly darker, more cynical path with my nominations.
Okay, let's hear it.
For my nomination in the overall category of vibes, I'm actually nominating Chris for having absolutely neither vocals nor vibe.
Oh, my God. You did not just say that.
I did, and it is scientifically accurate. He possesses negative vibes. He looks constantly confused by his surroundings. He sounds entirely generic. The only thing he actually has is Minnesota State pride.
I am screaming.
It is a third, hidden, highly destructive category that apparently trumps both vocals and vibes in this rigged voting algorithm. And for my actual vocals nomination, I have to once again mournfully nominate Daniel. The man was violently robbed.
Violently robbed.
His pentatonic runs were surgically clean. His tone was unbelievably rich and warm. He delivered pure, unadulterated, technically proficient vocals. And because he lacked the specific vibe that Facebook moms want, he is currently packing his suitcases. It's a travesty.
A literal, heartbreaking travesty.
Okay.
Moving on from vocals to actual stage presence, let's do a main stage energy check. When you look at the physical space of that massive studio, who owned the stage real estate tonight and who looked like their fight or flight response had them ready to sprint for the exit?
I think based on our previous dissection of his physiological collapse, we have a very clear, scientifically backed consensus on who looked like they wanted to go home.
Brooks looked like an actual hostage situation was unfolding on live television.
He really did.
I have never, in all my years of consuming reality TV, seen someone look so deeply internally terrified to be holding a live microphone. During She Will Be Loved, when they literally had to glue him to a park bench. He was gripping the wooden slats of that bench like he was strapped into a roller coaster that was actively derailing.
Holding on for dear life.
He desperately wanted to go home. His body language, the hunched shoulders, the darting eyes, the shallow breathing was screaming, "Let me go back to Maryland." And mercifully, America finally listened to his silent plea.
It was genuinely uncomfortable, bordering on painful, to watch from a psychological perspective. Conversely, the person who completely effortlessly owned every single square inch of that stage was Jordan.
Yes, Jordan.
We talked about his vocals, but his physical energy is just as important. He possesses this rare aura of inevitability about him. When he stepped out to perform I Can't Make You Love Me, he didn't rush to the microphone. He let the band play the intro. He commanded the silence in the room before he even opened his mouth to sing a single note. That is main stage energy. He didn't look stressed. His heart rate looked entirely stable. He didn't sweat. He owned that real estate.
He really is the anchor holding this chaotic season together. Okay, my favorite part of the night. It is time to judge them back.
Yeah.
This is where we flip the entire script and heavily critique the judges, just like they are the terrified contestants.
Yeah.
Because honestly, after tonight's episode, They desperately need a reality check.
They absolutely desperately need an intervention. Let's start with the most glaring, uncomfortable issue of the entire broadcast, the roast of Luke Bryan.
Yes. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Because Luke decided to get up from the safety of the judging desk and actually perform a song during the middle of the episode.
Yeah.
He got up there, grabbed a guitar, and did his thing, and well,
And
by the way,
it was incredibly revealingly awkward.
look, let's be objective. Luke Bryan is a massive multi-platinum country music star. He absolutely knows how to entertain a stadium full of people drinking beer on a Friday night.
Sure. But when he stands on the highly controlled, acoustically pristine Idol stage and performs immediately following these hungry 22-year-old vocal powerhouses who are singing for their lives, it violently highlights his own technical vocal weaknesses. He is incredibly pitchy. He relies almost entirely on crowd work and charisma to mask his lack of breath support. As I saw someone very accurately point out in the live online commentary, Luke sings exactly how he speaks, and it is definitely not a compliment.
You are absolutely brutal, but it's so incredibly true. He doesn't have any mask resonance. He literally sounds like he is just loudly talking at a specific pitch.
Precisely.
And then he finishes his mediocre performance, walks back over, sits his butt down at the desk, and has the unmitigated audacity to look someone like Daniel Stallworth in the eye and tell him he needs to improve his phrasing. The absolute delusion of it all.
Exactly. The hypocrisy is staggering, which brings us smoothly to the roast of the judging feedback in general, because the actual verbal critique they provide is structurally bankrupt.
It is entirely useless. I have been spiraling all night over how fundamentally useless their feedback is to these young kids.
It's all fluff.
Stop looking at terrified 22-year-olds whose careers are on the line and telling them to just breathe and have fun. Give them actual constructive musical notes. Tell them their vowel placement was too wide. Tell them their phrasing was rushing the beat. Tell them their song choice was too sleepy for a primetime audience.
But they won't do that.
When Brooks is visibly, physically shaking on a bench, looking him in the eye and saying, "People love you, just let it out," is not actionable advice. It's empty platitudes. It's the kind of fortune cookie wisdom you get on a bumper sticker.
Yeah.
It does nothing to help them improve.
It's a generational shift in reality television producing. They are entirely terrified of being perceived as mean on social media. The golden era of Simon Cowell, where a judge would bluntly tell you that your pitch was a disaster and your outfit was a tragedy, is entirely dead.
I miss Simon.
Now they just sit there and shower every single contestant, regardless of performance quality, with hyperbolic, meaningless praise. You corrected my spine curvature. You are the literal Holy Spirit. If every single contestant is the Holy Spirit, then absolutely nobody is. It completely dilutes the value of the critique until it means nothing.
It really does.
The only judge on that panel who actually contributed anything of analytical value tonight was the temporary guest.
Nikki Glazer. Give Nikki all of the flowers. She single-handedly carried that entire panel on her back.
She really did.
She gave us the iconic Spanx-throwing comment. She gave us genuine, unhinged Swiftie freakouts over lyric changes. But more importantly, she actually called out specific technical moments in the arrangements that she liked. She felt 100 times more emotionally and intellectually invested in the performances than the three core people who were getting paid millions of dollars to sit there all season long.
She fully understood the assignment. She brought a necessary blend of humor, cultural context, and actual passionate fandom to a panel that has grown incredibly stale. Production should honestly consider rotating guest judges like her on a weekly basis, because the core three, Luke, Lionel, and Carrie, are completely visibly checked out of the process. They're just collecting a paycheck.
I would personally sign a binding legal petition right now to replace Luke with Nikki permanently. I want her there every week. Okay, moving into the final stretch before we wrap this up. If you could physically steal one performance from tonight, if you could magically implant the talent, the swagger, and the moment into your own body and claim it as your own, which one are you stealing?
I know precisely which one I'm taking. It requires zero thought.
Wait, hold on. Let me go first. Let me set the stage. I would absolutely, without a doubt, steal Keela's Etta James performance. Her rendition of I'd Rather Go Blind.
Nice choice.
I want to steal it just to experience for 3 minutes what it actually feels like inside a human body, to have that much sheer, unadulterated power residing in my lungs, to be able to open my mouth, engage my diaphragm, and just completely level an entire room with a single note.
It would be powerful.
To sing with so much soul that you make a celebrity guest judge want to hurl her foundational undergarments at your head. That is a level of witchcraft and power that I want to wield at least once in my life.
It is a highly respectable, a very solid choice. But I am stealing Braden's performance of Cardigan.
Of course you are. You love the chaos.
I am stealing it purely, 100% for the psychological flex. I want to possess the supreme ability to walk onto a massive high-stakes national television broadcast, look a fanatic in the eye, and admit I have absolutely no idea what the sacred source material is, confidently belt out the melody anyway with a gravelly rock voice, and be universally, wildly praised by everyone in the room for my vibe.
It's so funny.
That is a level of unbothered, chaotic, Teflon-coated success that I want to embody in my daily life.
It is so incredibly on brand for you. Just failing upwards with absolute unwavering confidence.
I beg your pardon, not failing upwards, succeeding upwards with a highly calculated lack of preparation. It's a strategy.
Whatever you say, babe. Well, we have officially survived the emotional trauma of Taylor Swift night and the absolute rig that is the live voting system. But before we wrap up this recap, we desperately need to look ahead to next week.
Right.
Because the Reddit conspiracy theories are already brewing, and I am fully buying into them.
Oh, I have a final, highly provocative thought for you to mull over as we close out. Let's analytically look at the promotional teaser for next week's episode. The network announced they are bringing back Randy Jackson and Paula Abdul to physically enter the studio and mentor the top 5. The original class of 2006.
Which is so iconic. I love Paul so much. The dancing, the clapping.
It is absolutely iconic, yes, but ask yourself, is it actually just pure desperation? Think about the overarching narrative of this season. The live ratings have been incredibly weird and inconsistent.
Very true.
The social media live voting format is a heavily documented, universally hated disaster that is actively alienating the entire West Coast demographic and resulting in bizarre, highly criticized eliminations, like Daniel going home tonight while Chris stays.
Justice for Daniel.
The core judging panel is giving nothing but fortune cookie feedback that the audience is openly mocking. Do we honestly think the executive producers are actively panicking in the control room right now?
Right.
Do they look at the metrics, realize the credibility of the show is collapsing, and decide they had to smash the emergency glass and call in the 2006 Legacy alumni to artificially legitimize the process and save the season?
Oh my God. My brain just exploded. You are so incredibly right. They're bringing in the heavy hitters because they know we are actively losing faith in the entire democratic process of the show.
It's obvious.
They are deploying the nostalgia troops.
Mm-hmm.
They need Paula to sit there and clap delightfully offbeat, and they need Randy to point at the stage and say, dog, just to flood our brains with serotonin and remind us of the glory days. It's a distraction.
It is textbook, highly weaponized nostalgia bait designed specifically to distract the millennial viewing audience from the horrifying mathematical fact that Chris Tungseth is currently sitting in the top 5. It is smoke and mirrors. I see right through the production manipulation. But having said all that, it will absolutely 100% work on me.
Oh, I will absolutely be sitting on my couch watching every single second of it. I am unwell, I am being manipulated by the network, but I'm fully committed to the mess. Babes, thank you so much to the Snark Squad for hanging out, drinking with us, and spiraling with us tonight. You guys are the absolute best audience in the world.
Truly. Your messy scenarios and unhinged hypotheticals give us life. Keep sending them into the inbox.
And please remind your friends to share the podcast with a friend and rate and review. Like Babes, we started with vodka crayons and messy games and ended up fully in our pop star era, as we should.
I need a very long nap, a large glass of water, and access to an alternate timeline where Daniel is still rightfully competing in the finale.
Stay iconic, stay chaotic, and we will see you on the Snark side.